everyone. Today we have our another new episode as a global talent shows. We are promoting this global talent show with Pot TV USA, with Good News USA, with B Lab Japan, with Pacific Rim Business Councils, and all of the network. We have our highly talented financial analyst and expert Jan. Thank you for joining today's sessions. My first questions, as you are financial expert as well as you have your Swire Consulting Group, how would you approach solving a business problem in a country whose cultures and market you are unfamiliar with? Let's say right now I'm in Dhaka. So, how you want to deploy your economic innovations in Dhaka, and also we have our economic challenges right now. What's your thoughts about that?
Hi, Sharif. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's an interesting question. I think the answer's in two parts. One, there are the fundamentals that apply in Dakar as they do in London, as they do in Singapore. A lot of those fundamentals stay the same. A lot of the analysis behind them remains the same. When it comes to the operations in different parts of the world, which are impacted by cultural differences, my approach has always been to work with locals who understand them. The most valuable projects I've worked on have been combining international experience into a team that bring that knowledge from all over the world to focus on solving a problem. You asked about the financial challenges in Bangladesh.
Yes.
The challenges, I think, can be looked at as an opportunity. Swire Consulting Group focuses on working in countries that are developing most quickly, that are perhaps relatively new to exporting or expanding into other countries. I think Bangladesh will be on the same path. I think the challenges may well be significant and they may make it difficult to get a foothold. But once you have that foothold, I think the opportunities become huge. The talented workforce is there. The opportunity to do business at substantially lower cost than in the West, I think, is there, and does mean that businesses emerging out of Bangladesh and international businesses looking to work in Bangladesh have a great opportunity ahead.
Excellent. So, as you are CEO of Swire Consulting, for Swire Consulting, let's say many people in Bangladesh or in Pakistan or in maybe Afghanistan is new. Can you share some of your experience and about your Swire Consulting with our audience?
Certainly. And I haven't worked in any of those three countries you mentioned. We do a large amount of work in India, in the Middle East. I've worked extensively in Southeast Asia. And I think a bit of advice that's relevant for those experienced in business and perhaps working in an enterprise environment, and those new to business, perhaps with an entrepreneurial mindset and looking to expand, is get the fundamentals right first. A strong business is built on strong fundamentals. Understand what is core to your success and be the best at doing it. From that point, when you've got a real product that is better than what else is out there and you're consistently delivering every time, you will find that your sales process is much easier because a lot of it's supported by word of mouth, and growth will come. I think a mistake that's often made in business, and if I'm honest, a mistake I've made in business, is to look to conquer everything at once, to look to make your first $10 million, whereas perhaps you should look to make your first 10,000 and then build on that.
Excellent. So we are sharing the Swire Consulting website with our audience. So describe a time you work with the people from different background and perspective. What did you learn? Like, I know that you are British, but you work with Indian communities. How does
Yeah,
it work?
my career has been almost entirely outside of the UK. I've had the privilege to live in lots of parts of the world, including um, the Middle East, Azerbaijan, Australia, Southeast Asia. And I have been equally privileged to work with people who almost always are brighter than I am, at least in some area of where they've worked, or bring different experience. Um, it's hard to pick an example because it is my career, working with teams assembled from different countries and looking to make sure that nobody is limited in the contribution they can make. Um, I strongly believe that to get the best out of a team, you do have to look for people's strengths rather than focus on what needs to be improved, and give people the freedom to express themselves. It doesn't matter if somebody is 20 years old, fresh out of university in their first job, or somebody is 60 years old who has been doing the same thing for years and years. Everybody has a different perspective to bring. We need to listen to those perspectives, and we need to look at problems from every angle. That's where a company like Swire brings most value to its clients, is looking with a fresh set of eyes. So the more diverse a team, the better from my point of view. I will always look to bring a team with some local expertise, with some international expertise, some people who have been in consulting for a long time, and ideally some people who have a background that's not in consulting at all, that is in manufacturing, if that's relevant, primary resources, if that's relevant.
Mhm. Excellent. That is an interesting term. I think my question also relevant with these things: cross-border capital and executions and align. How you want to explain this point with our audience? And yeah.
So, so Swire is not a broker for fundraising by any means. We look to empower the clients we're working with to achieve whatever it is, whatever goal they're looking after. Quite often, we're focused on growth stage companies. Quite often, that goal requires funding. So it might be cross-border expansion. It might be a new geography, a new product line. Quite often, these projects require substantial capital. So we've come to the capital as an addition to the execution expertise we bring, the strategy expertise we bring. It's really important to our clients that the execution supports the capital raising, because otherwise it won't go anywhere. The companies who are focusing on capital first, followed by execution, risk falling foul of the fact that the story they tell an investor isn't complete enough to buy their assurance, their confidence, their conviction, to the extent that they will fund whatever the goal is. Approaching it the other way around, where you're purely focused on execution without considering what an investor will need, risks coming up with a great plan that will never get off the ground because there isn't the money behind it to fund it. So the alignment of the investment story and the operational planning is extremely important. The cross-border side of that's because the main successes we have with providing capital for companies, which Swire doesn't provide capital itself. We work with investors to understand the needs and then allow them to work with the companies. It's based on a network. It's based on consistently providing the right opportunities to the right investors. And we have a very good relationship with what is a relatively small number of financial institutions and individuals. They happen to be based primarily in Europe and the Middle East. A lot of the companies we work with are based elsewhere. So the cross-border side of things is more an artifact of how Swire works than part of the goal in itself.
Excellent. Can you share some of your uh, success story with our audience, like how a company or corporation gets success? Because let's say my World Talent Economic Forum, we are getting too much of call. Hey, we need fund, we need finance from government, from corporations, from academia, and everywhere. But why we collaborate with you? You are disciplined, you are expert, you are professional. That's also how does it work? So,
So,
with some
so
example.
certainly. So I could pick a global logistics company who've developed a platform that allows uh, shipping containers to be booked in advance, paid for in advance. It reduces an awful lot of the inefficiencies in the process. We've worked with them to both from a strategy point of view, but also to secure funding for expansion. The successes have come from, I think, from the beginning, us being very clear what our internal expertises are and what expertise we need to bring in from outside, and making sure we do that appropriately and consistently. And then there have been two partnerships that have been core to succeeding in this work beyond what Swire brings itself. One is a partnership with a Caribbean-based fintech, which has been able to reduce the need for capital. And secondly, has been working with one of our partner investor institutions, a European investment bank, to reach the people who will want to invest in such an opportunity. We've provided those introductions, that network, but what we've provided best of all is clarity on what story needs to be told, what investors need to understand, what a successful raise looks like, the clarity around the milestones and making sure the raise sizing is correct. We also, in this instance, have actually pulled the company back from the initial ask of, I think they were initially wanting perhaps 15 million US dollars, and substantially reduced their capital requirement in order to hit milestones at an earlier stage, so that they're then able to justify the larger raise on a higher valuation, but justify that larger raise in a way that is going to make sense to a broader swathe of investors. It's hard for me, Sharif, to pick one particular example because I'm equally proud of the work we've recently done with an Indian startup that wanted to take the product that was doing quite well locally and bring that into other parts of the world. It's not such an exciting story, perhaps, to tell on a show like this, because we're not talking about tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about relatively modest amounts of money. But we look to bring that clarity of thought and clarity of action, a belief that if you make a plan at the start that addresses what needs to be addressed and follow that plan rigorously, you will achieve what you're wanting to achieve. And just make some of those challenges that feel either insurmountable, perhaps that's the wrong word, but certainly not entirely controllable, break them down into the steps that you need to go through and hold a client's hand as they go through those steps, ultimately seeing the performance indicators ticking along as they hit those achievements on the way.
Excellent. When you're working with Middle East or country like Bangladesh or Pakistan, and we have Islamic finance, right? It's very powerful. We have Bangladesh has microfinance. Bangladesh win Nobel Prize for microfinance.
Yeah.
So
Incredible.
I'm also part of economy. So how you go for new economic innovative solution like with this microfinance, Islamic finance, like climate finance. How does it work? How you want to mobilize
So,
these things?
so the firstly, I think microfinance is one of the most exciting innovations in the economic environment we're working in of recent years. I think the power of microfinance, that it's only just scratching the surface. It's an incredible opportunity, and I think that will become a big part of um, funding some really exciting innovation in countries like Bangladesh. The core the core aspects of any investment opportunity, whether they're placed in front of an individual who might have $1,000 to invest, or an institution who might be looking to invest $100 million, are fundamentally the same. The investor needs to understand what the risk profile looks like, what the potential return on their investment is, and what the company is going to do as they move along to show that they're achieving what they need to achieve. I I am not a I'm not an investment banker. I I'm not a financier. I'm a strategist. I'm an analyst. I I help a company show the show I help show the company the steps it needs to take in order to satisfy an investor, to answer the questions an investor is going to have before the investor asks them. Um, if it's Islamic financing, the details around how the investments are structured, that's actually outside of my remit. I will allow the investor and the company into which the company taking the investment work out the details of that. It doesn't fundamentally change the investment case, the return on the investment, the structure. The same to an extent, we do a lot of climate stuff, a lot of climate stuff. Um, Whether something is being funded by a climate fund or whether it's being funded by an HNI based in Saudi Arabia or a family office in London, doesn't make any difference to the information they need to be presented with. There is an additional bit of information to explain perhaps why it's relevant to the investor, but that should be very superficial and very obvious at an early stage if we're going to be successful.
Mhm. Excellent. So, like, uh, as you have to handle different kind of CEO of different corporation, right? Uh, because you are handle the corporations. So, what leadership qualities are the most important in fast changing global business environment? What's your thoughts? What's your advice?
Integrity is by far and away the most important element. You cannot work if you don't trust the people you're working with, and that's not just integrity insofar as people won't be dishonest, but it's integrity in people being able to deliver on what they say. So from um, in terms of what I look for when I bring people into my organization, first and foremost, it's integrity, including the confidence to say when something isn't going right. That's very important. That's a big downfall of a lot of consultants, is that failure is not an option. Failure is absolutely an option, and failure addressed at an early stage can often be changed to success. Um, I I also need people in my organization, and it's a very positive trait of the leaders we work um, with our clients. I need people to have respect for their teams in order to get the most out of the people they work with. Leaders who treat their workers as commodities are missing out on an awful lot of the resource they have at their disposal. So I would say if I was to answer that question slightly differently, what is the most important aspect of leadership? Whether it's talking about Swire, myself, the clients. It is integrity, which leads to trust from the people they want to sell to and the people who are working for them. And that trust leads to performance. So integrity would be the one word I'd put forward there.
Yes, excellent. My last question for you, what will be your closing remarks and what you want to discuss about economic innovation in this challenging world?
So in my closing remarks, if I'm addressing audience in Bangladesh primarily, but it is relevant elsewhere as well, I would highlight how exciting it is to be part of an economy that is growing and that is hungry and that is evolving. I think in the West, there is a certain sluggishness in business which has come from getting fat. When I spend time in India, when I spend time in the Philippines, when I spend time in the Middle East, the feeling is different. There is a sense that opportunity is there, and it truly is, and it's there to be grabbed by people who are willing to work hard and take a risk and get out there and speak to people, whether it's Swire, whether it's connections on LinkedIn, whether it's you, Sharif. There are people who want to be part of that very real opportunity, and everyone should feel that they can grab a piece of it. In terms of what I see as the exciting economic aspects over the coming years, I think I hope we move back to a way of trading less artificially shackled by tariffs. I sincerely do. But I think microfinance, which you touched on earlier, is truly one of the most empowering and democratizing aspects of financial development. I think we will see an awful lot more of that. We could talk about AI. We could talk about these new tools that are hugely significant. Web3, which has the potential to be hugely significant, but the fundamentals of business are not going to change, and the value delivered by human ingenuity and persistence isn't going to change either. So I think it's an exciting time for South and Southeast Asia. I think it's an exciting time for the Middle East. I think Africa is going to be an incredible story over the coming decades, and I think everyone, in fact, not everyone who has, everyone is able to contribute. Everyone is able to think about the challenges they're faced with and ways to make that better. Think about their dreams and work out how to help other people achieve those. And within those thoughts, there is often a business. There is often something that you can come up with that is going to be of value to someone else. And there are so many resources there to help people get off the ground, to help people create that first viable product, to help people get those first customers who might be in the same village, the same city, the same town. And then who knows what the limits are of anyone's idea. Some of the huge successes, some of the companies worth billions now, have been built out of people's garages. And I would say to particularly any youngsters in countries that are developing at the moment, those opportunities are there for you, and grab them. And I and plenty of other people would love to be part of that going forward.
Excellent. World Talent Economic Forum institutions with our 1.2 million audience entrepreneurs, scientists, inventors. We are collaborate with Swire Consulting because finance is extremely important for startup, for social
It
enterprise,
is.
for corporations, for government, everyone. So, how we can solve more complex financial problems with our partnership? That is our objective. We want to invite you in our World Talent Economic Forum board as a board of advisors for this financial part. Definitely, we are launching around 6 conference around the world. I want to invite you as a keynote speaker,
Please
and
do.
importantly, we want to organize series because we want to educate more entrepreneurs who can collaborate with you and get services from your organizations. That is the way we can uplift this emerging economy. We can overcome from these challenging situations, and we can make a meaningful contribution. So this is the starting. I'm sure a lot of excitement, innovations, and partnerships are waiting. Thank you for your excellent contribution. I request all of our audience, please share this content with the government agency, corporation, and academia. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.
Thank you, Sharif.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Thank you. Thank you.